How old are you?
A child from Ukraine who's adopted by a married couple here in the U.S. What happens after that make your head burst into flame?
Is this a child or a grown woman?
Bruh, this documentary is unhinged as hell. It's called The Curious Case of Natalia Grace.
Curious Case of Natalia Grace.
It is shocking.
More than 10 million people watched.
I have never watched a documentary this good.
This story captured the imagination of the world.
Oh my God, I'm blown away.
Whoa, I am shooketh.
She was gonna kill everybody.
She's evil.
You've adopted a kid and now they're trying to kill you. I mean, it's the stuff of a horror movie, right?
Like a serial killer or something.
There was a mention of her doing sexual favors for money.
Christine tried to set me up with Natalia.
She was an adult.
Natalia was a child.
Is it true? Is it not? We don't know.
I'm charged with 2 counts of child neglect. Is that correct?
Definitely not an area of town that I would let my kids walk around unattended.
He's not the kind of guy that could do well if he had to go to prison.
I just couldn't.
What a creepy guy. Who does that with his daughter?
8 months later, the world is unified in one thing. They want to hear from Natalia.
I don't know that there's 100% one villain here.
There were all these pieces to a puzzle that we couldn't quite put together.
Natalia was a victim. The Barnetts are the predators.
Christine trying to beat the truth out of her.
And that was what broke my heart the most.
Did you want to hurt him?
It's all gonna come to light.
Just when you think you have it solved, you find out you don't.
The story just got crazier.
You might not like the truth.
The Barnetts tried to paint me as this big monster. They claim I'm lying about my age. I was 6 years old when they adopted me. But the Barnetts did a petition to change my age to 22 years old. I literally lost my childhood.
When the verdict was handed down for Michael and they said not guilty, and he looked at us and he smirked, it was like watching my daughter be raped. There was no justice served. If I could have caught Christine in the alley and put a black hoodie on, I would have busted her upside the head.
There are things I'm going to tell you that you've not heard from anyone else yet.
Michael and Christine are cowards. They're heartless cowards.
That's not love. That's hate.
Sometimes the truth is crazier than fiction.
She knew that she couldn't, quote, give the kid back.
She's a little girl. She's not a car.
Many of these questions, there's not going to be a single answer to. There's going to be a lot of answers to.
What I'm about to show you will be definitive as to how old Natalia was.
Her DNA has all the answers.
I was never in y'all's room with a knife.
I know what I saw.
In every lie is a hidden truth. But you gotta dig enough to be able to see it. They're not gonna get away with this. This is my side of the story. Do I look like a monster to you? There's been so much time that I've been just trying to figure out who I am. I have no idea. Because right now, this is like a 1,000 piece puzzle, and I think I have like maybe only 300 pieces together. I want you to know how old I am. I want you to know about my past because I want to know too. It's very fuzzy. Like, there's a lot of things that I remember, but like, I can't picture it. So I wanted the puzzle to be complete. But the things that Christine and Michael have said that I've done is a lie. It was all copied off the movie Orphan. Ukrainian girl, Russian girl, check. Orphan, check. All this crazy stuff. Standing at the end of the bed with a knife. Check. That's why I want to do this. That's why I want to tell people what really happened, because I didn't get that chance. Michael and Christine are painting me as this homicidal maniac. She was eating her period, and she hid it for this long. And having pubic hair at 7 years old, like, don't trust her. Don't believe anything she says. She's tried to murder my family, and this, that, and the third. But then you gonna come into that apartment that y'all dropped me off in and pretty much try to murder me. I just want people to know the truth.
I'm Bishop Antoine Mans, and I am Natalia's dad. We started taking in children. We wanted to adopt because there's a lot of children who need a family, who don't have a family.
I'm Cynthia Mans. I love being a mom. I have literally 11 children. And I'm Natalia Grace's mom.
I've been with the Mans family for over 10 years. You can see my life the way it is.
A lot of love, great.
Thank you. I finally have parents that love me more than Christine and Michael ever did. My dad and my mom, they let me be a kid. My dad protects me. He does what a dad is supposed to do. My mom gives me hugs every day and tells me how much she loves me. And never once had they had to worry about me hurting their kids. I have siblings that love me. You can see that they love me and that I love them. Hey! Hey! Oh, Jesus, hey! Hey!
Oh, hi. Oh, my gosh.
She has been a light to our family. She has brought so much joy. But when Natalia came into our family, she was broken.
Father, in the name of Jesus, we plead the blood of Jesus.
And we're trying to pick up her pieces from her being shattered by what Christine and Michael did to her.
We pray, God, that the truth will be revealed.
In the mighty name of Jesus. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus.
I'm Beth Karras. I'm a former prosecutor in New York City and also a legal analyst. In my experience, this is one of the most twisted cases I've ever seen. This story is very different from anything I've covered. Usually I'm doing stories that have to do with murder and mayhem, and this has no murder, but it has a lot of mayhem, and a lot of it. I mean, it's like ping pong, just going in one direction to another as new information comes to light, especially now that Natalia is able to speak to us. And today, it seems pretty clear that Natalia has the family she's always wanted, the Manses. But that wasn't always the case. Because back in 2013, the Barnetts relocated Natalia to Tippecanoe County as a re-aged adult. So she's living there on her own. At an adult learning center, Natalia gets the attention of the faculty and staff because it's an adult learning center, but she's kind of childlike. So they call the police. This is what led the current sheriff of Tippecanoe County, Bob Goldsmith, but then a detective, to get involved in the investigation of Natalia.
I'm Bob Goldsmith. I'm the sheriff of Tippecanoe County. In our detective division, I was the first detective involved. People talk about a case that's kind of like a defining moment, the one they'll never forget. This is one of those cases. It was in September 2014 when I received a phone call from Excel Center. They said he had a young lady that had came in was enrolled in school, and things just weren't adding up. She said this young lady has an Indiana ID that says she's like 22 years old, 25 years old, or something like that. He said, but the conversations she has, I think she's like maybe 11. I've been around people with special needs throughout my career, but nobody like Natalia. When she walked in, her backpack was bigger than she was, and she was very, very short, and she climbed right up in the chair and started talking. I asked her, do you think you're 25 years old? And she said no.
I remember we got in the car, we both have kids, and we just like, there's no way she's that old.
Some people, they have commented that it's an act. What's your take on Natalia acting?
In all the interactions that me and you've had with Natalia at the Excel Center here, even watching her in the lobby, she always acted like a little child. She played like a little child. She talked like a little child. If she's acting, she never broke it that we could see.
I know at one point I asked Natalia if she had been abused, and she kind of closed up on me. She quit talking. She got silent. You could tell she was uncomfortable. I don't know if that's physical abuse, sexual, I have no idea, but I wasn't gonna pry. I learned through the training and having interviewed several kids and working these cases over the years, it's not gonna do any good to pry. When a child's ready to tell their story, they'll tell it, so I just left it alone. Knowing what I know, I don't think justice has been served, but what I do believe is that Natalia's in a place where she's happy now, and she feels safe, and she feels loved, and that's what she said she wanted.
How old did you think Natalia was? No clue. Did you think she was a child?
No.
Why did you think that?
Because Natalia had been telling everybody, therapists, doctors, us, that she was a grown-up.
It's true that I told everybody that I'm 22 years old. But Christine literally trained me to lie. That's what makes it worse, the fact that it had to come from me. And they could use that against me, like, oh, but you said it. You said that you was 22 years old, and then they changed my age. That whole thing was just a big chain reaction from one lie. But people don't know what happened in that house. They tortured me. I was abused. Christine is the real monster. Michael is an accomplice to the monster because he went along with everything that Christine said. What does that? Changing my age, that's the worst thing that the Barnetts ever did to me. It hurts every single day. But I was so terrified of Christine. When she told me to tell people that I was 22 years old, that's what I did. One time, Christine told me, she was like, I'm gonna show you what it's gonna feel like. If you do something wrong, I'm gonna pepper spray you. Christine told me to keep my eyes open, and then she just pepper sprayed me. And I couldn't do anything about it. She literally made me sit there for like 10 minutes until I could finally go and wash it out. And even then, it still hurt. And she didn't care. She didn't care. It just really hurt. Because she was supposed to be my mom. But she didn't act like a mom to me.
Christine was going to push the envelope as far as she could to try to break Natalia. So Christine starts putting words in Natalia's mouth. This is what you tell people. This is what you say. You're 22, and the threat of being pepper sprayed was just another control mechanism. The abuse against Natalia didn't start immediately, but the Barnetts' attempt to control the narrative did.
Looking back to 2010, something just wasn't right. And you've got to understand, with it being a closed adoption, the adoption agency was not willing to share any details of her. When we asked them originally, can you help give us contact information for her old family? We have got to find out what's going on here. They said, no, we can't. And then I got a phone call from the secretary of the adoption agency a little bit later that day. And she said, I can't tell you where she's from, but check her luggage closer. There was a little ID tag inside of her bag when we adopted her that had the original family's information on it. I have never met them in person.
I have no idea why they would say they never met the Chaconi's when they literally met them at the adoption agency. Like, I remember having to wait for who knows how long while the Chaconi's talked to the Barnetts. Like, that's literally like how I remember it, like plain as day. So, I don't understand that. The Chaconi's were the first family that ever adopted me from the Ukraine. I remember finding out that they were gonna adopt me, and I was so excited because all I've ever known was being in that orphanage, and then just to find out that someone is gonna adopt me was just an awesome thing for me. Like, I was so excited. I was happy that I was finally gonna have a family that actually wanted to meet. When we finally like pulled up into their big driveway, like it was a hill. And I was just like, whoa. Like, I remember my 5-year-old self being so excited because it was a big house. Once we got in, I literally just like looked everywhere. And then they opened a door, and through that door was my bedroom. And I was so excited. It was pink. And it was just like there was everything in there. I was with them for about 2 years. But yeah, there was a lot of good memories there. But then it was like after a while, like everything kind of changed. One time, me and the little boy, Vero, we were just playing. I landed on Vero's arm wrong. And I just kept saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. But then Gary came in and he just started yelling. And then as he was walking away, I was crying and I was mad. I said, I hate you. After that, Gary, he didn't like me anymore. Like, that's what it felt like. It felt like he hated me. Then one day, I remember Diane coming in my room. She told me, she was like, I'm not gonna be your mom anymore, but I will always love you. And like, I didn't know what was going on. I felt like I was abandoned most of the time because I bounced around from so many different families.
Diane Chacon had gone to the Little People of America and said, this little girl is available for adoption. And there were 3 Little People couples interested in Natalia, but none of them have worked out.
Gary and Diane, they passed me around from families, and I met a bunch, but they didn't want to adopt me or something happened. And then all of a sudden she told me that they found a family that wanted me. And that's where we were going. We were going to Florida. It makes me mad because I pretty much got sold. Like I'm some toy. When the Chacconis took me to the adoption agency, I remember being told to just sit outside the room and just wait. And the Chacconis went in first and talked to Michael and Christine and the 3 boys. I remember waiting for a while, like I felt like a long time. Finally, the Chacconis came out and was like, you can come in now. And I remember running up to Michael and giving him a hug, and I called him Daddy because the Chacconis told me that Michael and Christine were gonna be my parents. I think it was Christine who told me, she was like, we're gonna be your family now. And I remember still being very sad and very confused. I believe I cried too. She was like, it's okay. They acted like they wanted me to be their daughter. So all I thought was just, I found my family. They're gonna love me, but thinking back on it, I think I trusted them too fast.
My name is Jackie Starbuck. I was the lead deputy prosecutor on the State versus Barnett cases. There are things I'm going to tell you that you probably have not heard from anyone else yet that are part of the truth. As we were conducting this investigation and talking to witnesses, it was clear that there was something going on that was unusual, to say the least. From the time that Natalia came to the Barnetts in April of 2010, there continued to be a pattern of saying, well, we don't know how old Natalia is. We think she's this age. We think she's an adult, when in fact they had been told repeatedly by multiple medical professionals that that wasn't the case. They were working to hide, really, that they ever had any connection with Natalia, because they also claimed that they didn't have any records at all about Natalia's prior medical history, and yet they were providing to the school system medical records from before she was with them.
Michael lied when he said he never met the Chacons, and he lied when he said this was a closed adoption. A closed adoption, by definition, means no information about or contact with the prior family. Not only do we have Natalia's account of the Chacons and Barnetts meeting at Adoption by Shepherd's Care, but we have email exchanges between the Barnetts and the Chacons. And these email exchanges included the executive director of Adoption by Shepherd's Care. They were talking to both families. There were also signed contracts. And the Chacons and Barnetts were involved in a legal proceeding within a few months of picking up Natalia in Florida because there were complications with the adoption. But for some reason, Michael hid this fact. And he led us to believe that Adoption by Shepherd Care was the sole adoption agency brokering the adoption of Natalia. But that's not true.
We get this phone call out of the blue from Adoption by Shepherd Care. We get this phone call from Adoption by Shepherd Care. I have nobody to trust except for the experts involved. In this case, it's gonna be Adoption by Shepherd Care.
But Gateway Woods was their adoption agency. Michael never mentions Gateway Woods. Why not?
And I remember after we left the adoption agency, we went to Disney World. And I remember seeing the Chacconis, and I remember pointing them out. I was like, hey, it's Mom. And then Christine was like, that's not your mom anymore. I'm your mom now. And I was like, oh. Like, I didn't really know what to say to that. I was worried, like, I hope I don't do something wrong.
We get to the hotel that night, and Christine's going to give our brand new daughter a bath. And I hear a shout from the bathroom. She says, Michael, look down. And Natalia had full pubic hair.
The first night, Christine gave me a bath, and like she never mentioned anything to me about pubic hair or anything like that. Like I didn't know what that even was. Like nobody explained anything like that to me. I was 6, about to be 7, like I didn't know. I don't know why they said what they've said. I don't remember Michael ever coming into the bathroom. Honestly, I don't. I just remember Christine just helping me get dressed, and then we was getting ready to go to bed. I don't remember her, calling Michael or anything like that. I don't remember Christine doing any of that. I just don't understand why the Barnetts would say that I have pubic hair or anything like that, because literally, I didn't start noticing any hair until I was 7, almost 8. But that doesn't mean that I'm this big monster. I was still a kid. Look, some kids start early. That's what happens.
Regardless of what happened in that hotel room, we do know that that event did not trigger any desire on the part of the Barnetts to return Natalia. Was this horror story by the Barnetts in the Florida hotel room about massive amounts of pubic hair really revisionist history as justification for re-aging her years later? Now that Natalia is able to speak to us, we have more information. And some of that information includes the Gateway Woods reports on home visits and Dr. Riggs's report. We did not have these before. And this is how we learned the fact that the Barnetts were represented by Gateway Woods during the adoption of Natalia. Natalia was seen by Dr. Riggs, an endocrinologist, on June 3rd, 2010.
What age was he saying that Natalia was?
Okay, here we go. June the 3rd of 2010. So at that time, she was somewhere between the ages of 9 and 11 years old.
And did you tell the parents this directly?
Yes. Oh, yes. They were informed that we thought that she was a child.
So this is 5 weeks after she enters the Barnett household. They knew right away she was a child. Michael had to distance himself from Dr. Riggs in his report because the doctor specifically told him that Natalia was a child between the ages of 9 and 11. He also had to distance himself from Gateway Woods because Gateway Woods incorporated this information in their report. Is that why Michael led everyone to believe that adoption by Shepherd Care was his agency? By leading others to believe that the adoption was closed, Michael guaranteed that few would question his story about the adoption. We know now this is not true, but it made a great cover story. Everything could have been so different for Natalia if she had been adopted by one of the families she met before the Barnetts.
Where are the balls?
It's not a toy.
As far as Natalia's age, she was a child. You what? Oh, you finished that. We think the Barnetts should be in jail. Both of them.
We attempted to adopt Natalia back in 2009. We set up a private meeting, really, at a
museum,
museum.
Right? Yeah.
Her adopted mother at the time brought her.
She came in.
What a cute kid.
Oh my gosh.
She was adorable.
So cute.
Absolutely.
We had Mackenzie already, our daughter, and she was 4. We actually have pictures of Mackenzie and her on the scooter together. They were just like long-lost sisters.
Like 2 peas in a pod. It was really nice. And we had 2 subsequent visits.
Halloween, and they were both princesses that year. They got ready for bed together. They did everything.
Helped each other blow dry their hair.
Yeah. And then Mackenzie had a little car.
Just adorable 4- and 6-year-old playing in the yard. We were hopeful that it was going to move forward. And
I feel like a bomb got dropped, and then we weren't able to see Natalia again after the last visit over Christmas because things just got really messy. With the attorneys, it had nothing to do with Natalia. It was heartbreaking.
It was very heartbreaking.
Ugh, very, very heartbreaking.
The bond between Natalia and the DePauls was deep and enduring. They loved her, had no problems with her. They wanted Natalia to be a member of the family.
I'm sorry, honey.
This should have worked out with the DePauls, right? But things get complicated. When Child Protective Services in New Hampshire received a report regarding Natalia and the Chacones suspected the DePauls filed that report. The DePauls denied it, but it culminated in Natalia's adoption being taken off the table. She was no longer available to the DePauls. As you can imagine, this was heartbreaking for the DePauls and their daughter, Mackenzie, but also it was heartbreaking for Natalia.
The DePauls, they were little people like me, and I used to always go and visit them. I was there for Christmas, Halloween, and Mackenzie and I were, like, it felt like we were best friends. I loved hanging out with her. We did, like, almost everything together. Just like how sisters would be. I really did want to stay with the DePauls, so I wouldn't have had to go through the pain that I went through. I felt like they actually wanted me and they loved me. And then it was just like, I just stopped seeing them. And I was sad about that. I don't know, it was just a really weird thing, like I just stopped seeing them all together. Yeah.
A few months later, Christine messaged me and she said, we adopted Natalia. The first red flag that I saw with the Barnett family was they got Natalia way too quickly, never even met her. And they just basically, that was it. They just ripped her out of the family.
That was kind of shocking to us.
Should we
make sure it's a good fit? Should we make sure she likes us? Should we make sure she's comfortable with us and our other kids?
She's a little girl. She's not a car. Another thing that felt weird was Christine asked me, had you ever questioned Natalia's age? I said, I've never once questioned Natalia's age. I said, I have her birth certificate. I have all of her paperwork. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
This was at the museum. We first met Natalia. It was in 2009. And look at her tooth. See? It's missing, right?
Yeah.
In this picture, you can see the difference. See the teeth? This one's from Halloween, and you see the teeth. And then this one is before that. You could tell the changes, obviously, in her teeth here. And adults don't have changes in their teeth like that. That happens only once in your life, when you're around 6 years old, exactly how old she is in 2009. Does that look like a 20-year-old to you? I mean, come on. I'm sorry, but it's just ludicrous.
I remember when I was with the Barnetts, we had just got back from dinner, and my tooth came out. I had a wiggly tooth, and my tooth came out. Of course, Christine didn't believe me. She said, why did you pull your tooth out? I said, I didn't pull my tooth out. And there was like a long piece, like, I guess like almost like the root of it. And she's like, see, the root is right there. You pulled it out. That wouldn't be there if your tooth actually fell out. And I didn't know what to say to that, but I just kept telling her, no, I didn't. I didn't pull my tooth out. It fell out. But she just kept telling me, you're lying. You pulled your tooth out.
My name is Dr. Tim Gosweiler. I've been practicing general dentistry for 34 years, and I am the dentist that Natalia Barnett and her mother came to see in 2011. Mrs. Barnett brought in Natalia and was saying, we have a question as to how old Natalia is. We think she might be older than what she says she is. Is there a way you can find out? Which is an unusual request. Talking to Natalia, she looked like she was about 7, but she acted like she was much older. She was answering questions articulately. So at 7 years old, you just don't see that all the time. And that's why I thought, well, this girl can't be 7 years old. And I can see how mom would think that after talking to her, because she seemed very mature.
I did ask, how do they know that she's not 6 or whatever when they got her? She's like, well, we had dental records done on her, and the dentist said that none of her teeth are baby teeth. They're all adult teeth. So I was like, okay. Okay.
This is the room where we did Natalia's panoramic x-ray. So what I'm about to show you will be a definitive answer as to how old Natalia was in 2011. We determined that she had 12 baby teeth remaining, 3 in each quadrant. These 3 teeth right here in all the quadrants. It's very simple to determine Natalia's age. I mean, there's really no question when you take an x-ray like this. You've got baby teeth, adult teeth, and there's a range that you have for someone who's got this level of tooth development. And that's going to be, let's go to extremes, 6 to 9 years old. This is way too many baby teeth to be an adult. It's indisputable. You can't fake teeth coming in like this. So when Mom and Natalia left, Mom knew that Natalia was around 8 or 9, which is right in the range of what she said that she was.
Doctor, did you know that her age was changed in 2012?
Oh, her age was they legally changed her age? Oh, they tried to, oh, I wasn't aware of that. And what was it changed to?
It was to 22, so her birthday was changed from 1989.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big jump. Nothing on the x-ray that we took that would show that she could be anywhere near 15 years older. Wow, that seems crazy.
So that means that even after signing the dental records, Christine still told people that Natalia was an adult. Why?
After the trial and everything, and all the records I have, especially the medical records, all points to me being a kid. So I understand what the truth is. I've known the truth for as long as I can remember, that I was a kid. But there's a lot of people who are thinking, like, there is a way to tell her age. There is a way to prove it. I just want people to just really see the truth about my age.
True diagnostics, really, we're answering a fundamental question. How old are you? In fact, they use this in the insurance world to actually predict when someone's going to die, right? And so if you think about that world, this is super important to be accurate. What we're trying to determine is someone's chronological age, not based off of anyone's emotions or what he said or she said. For Natalia, we're trying to figure out, well, how old is she?
You ready?
No.
We're really just taking a sample of blood, which has our answers because it's in the DNA.
Once we get this sample, we are very excited to really tie this entire case together.
I'm praying for the best for this, but I'm really nervous. Like, I don't know what they're gonna say.
Thanks for coming to the lab. Want to take a look at the results?
Yes.
All right. All right, so moment of truth, all right?
Yes.
Based off of all the studies and everything being analyzed, you're more closer to 22, which is pretty close to what you think you're almost 20. That's within 2 years.
Wow.
This one little piece of paper throws every single lie that the Barnetts has said right into the trash with a match. This is so big because literally this has been 13 years. 13 years of just two people lying their butts off They ruined a kid's life. They painted them as some big monster when in reality they were the ones.
You're exactly right.
It just proves that I was not lying about my age. They ignored everything that was pointing to the truth just so they could create this stupid lie.
So if all of that is true about her age, that means Natalia came into the country in 2008 when she was 4, almost 5. Adopted by the Barnetts in 2010 when she was 7. Natalia was 8 when the age change petition was filed and was placed in the apartment in Westfield. In July of 2013, when she was placed in the Lafayette apartment, she would have been 9, a few months shy of turning 10. What that means is that Natalia was a child living on her own.
But I just want to know why create this story. They knew it and they still did what they did.
Why do this? Why go through all of this? For what? The question is, why?
That's the $1,000,000 question. I always knew I wasn't an adult, but I never knew why the Barnetts adopted me. Never once did I see any love. I feel like there's something bigger with this. I don't know what it is. How did they shut these doctors up? How did they hide all this evidence? They are hiding something big. I want to know the answers to these questions. And I want people to pay for what they've done.
The night was heavy, thick with fog that rolled in from the Pacific, curling around the empty streets like smoke from a long-forgotten fire. A single streetlight flickered in the distance, the orange glow barely piercing the darkness, and there, beneath it, lay a shadow that would haunt a community for decades. 25 years ago, a young woman vanished on that very street. Her name was Emily Harper, 19, a student with dreams as big as the California sky, known for her laugh, the kind that filled rooms that made strangers pause and smile, the kind of laugh that now only echoed in memory. That night, her car was found abandoned at the edge of an industrial lot. Doors unlocked, keys in the ignition, engine cold, radio still playing a soft static hum. Nothing else. No signs of struggle, no witnesses, no explanation. The police were called. Flashlights cutting through the fog, searching the perimeter. The clatter of radios filling the silence. Her purse was gone. Her phone was gone. Emily Harper was gone. Neighbors spoke in whispers the next morning, their eyes hollow with fear. Some claimed they had seen a dark figure moving near the lot the night before. Others swore they heard a scream, muffled by the wind and the sea. A dog barked relentlessly in the distance. The community was gripped by the sudden disappearance, the unease lingering in the air, thick as the fog. Posters went up on telephone poles, each one a silent scream for answers. Volunteers scoured the hills and canyons, hands cutting through thorn and bramble, eyes scanning every shadow for any hint, any trace, of the girl who had vanished without a trace. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and every lead dissolved like mist under the morning sun. Detectives followed tips, interviewed neighbors, friends, even distant relatives, but nothing held. Every theory seemed plausible, every conclusion elusive. The investigation went cold. The term cold case was stamped on the file, a label that would cling to Emily's story for decades. Inside the station, the walls were lined with maps, photographs, scribbled notes. A corkboard held Emily's smiling face in the center, strings connecting names, places, times, faces, threads that led nowhere. Detectives pored over the details obsessively, nights stretching into dawn, coffee cups stacking like monuments to frustration. One officer remembered a car pulling away, headlights cutting across the lot, too fast to read a plate. Another recalled a figure seen from a distance, someone who had turned their head quickly, vanishing before anyone could call out. These fragments were filed away, each one a ghost of what could have been a lead, each one fading further into the past. Emily's family held on, clinging to hope, placing candles on the windowsill, their eyes scanning the horizon, hoping for a glimpse of the daughter who never came home. Months later, a local news broadcast ran a feature on the disappearance, and suddenly the case took on a life of its own in the public eye. Letters came from strangers claiming to know something, postcards from towns hundreds of miles away, cryptic messages that added more shadows than answers. Some were desperate, some malicious, some irrelevant, but everyone had to be catalogued, reviewed, scrutinized. Detectives became prisoners of their own obsession, unable to let go, haunted by every what if and every maybe. The community, meanwhile, moved on in day-to-day life, yet beneath the veneer of normalcy, a tension lingered, a collective unease that the missing girl could have been anyone, could have been their daughter, their sister, their neighbor. Years stretched on. Technology evolved. Fingerprints that once could not be read now could be scanned. Databases expanded. A new generation of detectives entered the station, combing through decades-old files with fresh eyes, looking for connections that had been invisible to their predecessors. One detective noticed a detail overlooked in the original reports. A peculiar footprint near the edge of the lot, faint, almost erased by rain, but preserved in the original photographs. Another cross-referenced the industrial lot with transient reports, sightings of suspicious vehicles, movements of known offenders. Slowly, painstakingly, pieces began to align, forming shapes that had been invisible to the eye of the past. Each small breakthrough brought a thrill, a pulse of hope, a reminder that even the coldest case could burn hot again with the right spark. Emily's family, meanwhile, endured the slow torment of unanswered questions, the perpetual limbo of not knowing. Anniversaries came and went, each one a reminder of absence, a wound reopened each year. The community still whispered, still remembered, still cast sideways glances at strangers walking the streets late at night. The city carried the weight of a secret, an unspoken tension that hovered in corners, in parking lots, in empty alleys where the night swallowed every sound. Every shadow became a suspect, every footstep a potential clue. The fear that someone among them knew more than they let on was a silent undertone to daily life. Then, 25 years later, the impossible happened. Advances in DNA technology had reached a point where minuscule, degraded samples could yield profiles that decades ago were thought to be unreadable. A technician working on a backlog of unsolved cases noticed a match, a partial profile from an old evidence swab, previously dismissed as contaminated, now returned with a possible suspect. Detectives revisited the old files, cross-referenced the evidence with national databases, and suddenly decades of silence shattered in a single electric moment. The name surfaced. A man long thought to be above suspicion, a man who had lived quietly in the community, whose path had intersected with Emily Harper's only once, or so everyone thought. The arrest was swift, yet surreal. Neighbors stared in disbelief as squad cars lined the streets, lights flashing red and blue, engines idling, the quiet hum of a city interrupted by decades-old secrets finally demanding attention. The suspect offered no resistance, expression blank, eyes unreadable. Inside, detectives felt a mixture of relief, disbelief, and lingering unease. The answers were finally here, but they brought no solace, only the echo of years lost, of questions unasked, of time that could never be recovered. Emily's parents wept quietly, a mixture of grief and validation, mourning what was lost while acknowledging that the truth, however late, had arrived. The town was stunned. Conversations hummed in grocery stores, schools, and offices. Headlines screamed across newspapers and digital feeds. Cold case solved, DNA breakthrough, justice decades in the making. Yet beneath the surface, the story retained its shadows. Questions remained. Why him? Why then? How had he escaped notice for so long? The answers seemed incomplete, fragments of a puzzle that no longer fully formed a picture. Emily's absence still echoed in the spaces she had once filled. Her friends remembered her laughter, her dreams, her presence in the world that had moved on without her. The arrest offered closure in one sense, yet the emptiness persisted, a reminder that some wounds never fully heal, that some mysteries leave traces in the hearts of a community long after the final page is turned. Even now, years after the breakthrough, when the sun sets over that industrial lot, Fog rolling in from the Pacific, locals remember the night, the girl, the disappearance that seemed to defy logic. They speak in hushed tones, aware of the fragility of safety, the thin veil between normal life and the unseen danger that once walked their streets. Emily Harper's story is written into the city's memory, a cautionary tale, a reminder that time does not erase truth. It merely waits for the right moment to reveal it, a silent witness to the shadows, a cold case that finally ignited into clarity, leaving behind the haunting residue of decades lost, and the sobering realization that justice, no matter how delayed, has a voice that will not be silenced. The morning after the arrest, the city felt different, though nothing had physically changed. Streets were the same, the fog still curled from the coast, but an invisible weight had shifted. People whispered as they passed one another, eyes darting, as if searching for ghosts of the past in familiar faces. Cafes hummed with low conversations. Did you hear? After all these years. The local news vans lined the edges of downtown, antennas raised like fingers probing the sky, reporters leaning into cameras with urgency, breath visible in the cold morning air. The investigation that had lain dormant for a quarter-century suddenly occupied every headline, every radio broadcast, every social media feed that could carry the word, Emily Harper. Inside the station, detectives moved with the mechanical precision of those who have chased shadows for decades. Evidence was re-examined, photos spread across tables, files shuffled, labels peeling with age. Every detail was relit under the harsh fluorescence, every mark on the map reconnected with the thread of the newly discovered DNA. The man's past was combed through relentlessly, employment history, prior complaints, acquaintances who had long since moved or passed away, all now interrogated by the memory of Emily's disappearance. Witnesses from years ago were tracked down, their lives interrupted as officers pressed them to remember minutiae they had long buried. The faint outline of a car, the sound of a footstep on gravel, a shadow by the corner of a building that seemed unremarkable at the time but now bore the weight of meaning. The forensic lab became the new epicenter of the case. Technicians worked in silence, machines humming like a chorus of precision instruments, each one analyzing minute fragments that had been dormant in freezers for decades. The DNA sequence was compared, recompared, matched against countless profiles, permutations, and partial samples. Every confirmation sent ripples through the team. Small victories, incremental steps that carried enormous significance. When the final match came through, the room was frozen for a heartbeat before the flood of reality struck. Decades of uncertainty, years of anguish finally crystallized into a name, a face, a life that intersected fatally with Emily's own. News coverage escalated. Anchors spoke in hushed, urgent tones, highlighting the peculiar elements that made the story resonate far beyond the small town. A 19-year-old girl vanishing without a trace, a community paralyzed by fear, years of unanswered questions, a family enduring unthinkable waiting, and now, decades later, the shadow of the past collapsing under the weight of science. Viewers were gripped by the narrative, compelled by the tension that stretched across time. Comments poured in online, speculation mingling with empathy, strangers offering condolences, opinions, and questions that could never fully be answered. The case became a cultural touchstone, a reminder that unresolved mysteries can linger in the collective consciousness like ghosts in the fog, unacknowledged yet ever present. Meanwhile, detectives began piecing together the timeline with newfound clarity. Hours stretched, days collapsed into nights, and the past unfolded with a precision that was both exhilarating and horrifying. The night Emily vanished was reconstructed in painstaking detail. Her movements from the apartment to the industrial lot, the path her car had taken, the shadows that had fallen across her route, the weather conditions, the traffic patterns, the local events that had pulled people in other directions. Every detail was scrutinized for anomalies, for inconsistencies that might illuminate motives, methods, or opportunities. Each revelation was a thread, and the detectives wove them together, forming a tapestry that, while complete in certain respects, left gaps, shadows, spaces for uncertainty, spaces where fear still lingered. The suspect's demeanor remained calm, unervingly so, as lawyers and police navigated the delicate process of interrogation. His answers were measured, often evasive, leaving detectives to fill in the blanks through evidence, memory, and intuition honed over decades. There was no confession, not yet, only the quiet assertion that the DNA linked him, that his presence near the lot was undeniable, that time could no longer shield him from accountability. The psychology of the case became a puzzle of its own. Why this man? Why Emily? Why then? Experts were consulted, profiling behavioral patterns, examining historical records, analyzing interactions and social behaviors. The human mind, the detective team realized, was as much a terrain to be explored as the physical evidence left behind. Community reactions were raw and immediate. Parents held their children a little closer. Teenagers whispered the story like an ominous legend, and those who had lived through the early days of the disappearance found old scars reopened. Conversations in grocery stores and laundromats were punctuated by gasps and disbelief, a collective acknowledgement that the past had not merely been a memory, it had been a presence, a force shaping everyday life without visible trace. The arrest didn't erase the fear, it crystallized it into a tangible moment, one that both relieved and intensified the lingering tension that had permeated the town for so long. The legal machinery began its deliberate grind. Court dates were set, prosecutors pored over the cold case file with renewed fervor, evidence cataloged, witnesses prepped, the intricate ballet of justice unfolding with meticulous choreography. Every piece of evidence gathered decades ago was re-examined under modern standards. The industrial lot, once a place of disappearance and despair, became a focal point of forensic analysis, with soil samples, tire tracks, and remaining traces of human activity revisited in light of contemporary techniques. Even the environmental conditions of that night were reconstructed. Wind direction, fog density, temperature, all feeding into a meticulous, scientific attempt to recreate the night Emily vanished, to illuminate the moments that had once been swallowed by darkness. The media frenzy intensified. DNA breakthrough, cold case solved, decades of mystery end, flashed across screens and web pages. Human interest stories intertwined with technical analysis. Interviews with detectives who had chased ghosts for years, accounts from Emily's family, profiles of the suspect, analysis of forensic science evolution. The story resonated far beyond the local sphere, capturing attention nationally, even internationally, as an emblematic tale of justice delayed yet not denied. Social commentary arose, conversations about law enforcement, scientific advancement, community vigilance, and the delicate interplay of chance and choice in human life. Yet even amidst the clamoring for closure, the community felt the invisible residue of absence. Emily Harper's room, long cleared, still symbolized loss. Photographs on mantels, scattered letters, mementos stored in boxes, all testified to life interrupted. The arrest, though monumental, could not recreate the moments she had lost, could not restore the laughter, the dreams, the potential that had been extinguished or diverted. Conversations with family revealed the duality of emotion. Relief mixed with persistent grief, satisfaction tempered by the realization that no verdict could bring back what was gone. Detectives wrestled with the peculiar weight of triumph and frustration. Success in solving the case brought no celebration, only reflection on the enormous cost of delayed justice. Years of procedural limitations, misdirected leads, societal distraction, and technological constraints had conspired to elongate the process. They acknowledged the limitations of memory, the fallibility of human observation, and the relentless passage of time that obscures truth. Each officer carried both pride and sorrow, recognizing the delicate line between achievement and the haunting reminders of lives forever altered. At the industrial lot itself, remnants of the past remained stubbornly present. The weeds had grown, the pavement cracked, graffiti layered over old markings, yet in subtle ways, the space resonated with the echoes of history. Community members lingered, drawn by morbid curiosity or a desire for connection. Some left flowers, others candles, a quiet tribute to a young life that had touched so many yet ended abruptly. Photographs circulated in local papers and social media, documenting the site as both a place of crime and of memory, a stark reminder that even as truth emerges, the physical landscape retains the mark of tragedy. Even as legal proceedings unfolded, the story had transformed into a narrative about time itself, about endurance and the persistence of truth. Emily Harper's case became a lens through which the community examined its own fragility, its capacity for hope, and the indelible impact of violence on collective memory. Students in local schools studied the case as an example of forensic science evolution, Journalists used it to illustrate the power of diligent reporting, and ordinary citizens discussed the moral implications of delayed justice. The narrative refused to remain confined to the courtrooms or police stations. It had entered the very consciousness of the town, shaping perception, conversation, and social fabric. As part 2 of the saga closes, the city remains suspended in the tension between revelation and lingering uncertainty. Justice is now a tangible force, a man held accountable, a mystery solved through scientific precision. Yet the haunting essence of what was lost remains irretrievable. The life unlived, the laughter never heard again, the presence extinguished in a single night. Emily Harper's story resonates like a low hum beneath the surface of daily life, a persistent reminder that while science and diligence may illuminate shadows, the human cost of mystery and crime reverberates long after answers arrive, echoing in the hearts and memories of those who wait, who remember, and who refuse to forget. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation, a tension so thick it pressed against the walls and made the air itself tremble. Cameras crowded the hallways, reporters scribbling furiously, microphones thrust forward, capturing every inflection, every pause. The suspect sat quietly, hands folded, expression unreadable, eyes flicking briefly to the gallery before returning to the floor. Detectives hovered nearby, a subtle network of vigilance, aware that decades of unanswered questions had led to this precise electric moment. The judge entered, robes rustling, the gavel a hammer poised to punctuate a story decades in the making. Every eye in the room focused, yet outside, the town waited with bated breath, listening through televisions, radios, smartphones, desperate to feel the pulse of justice moving forward. Emily Harper's parents sat in the gallery, hands clasped tightly together, knuckles white, faces drawn and pale from years of grief, anxiety, and hope. Their eyes, glassy with emotion, traced every move, every glance, every subtle motion, searching for confirmation, for understanding, for the truth to finally make sense. Memories of the night she disappeared surged unbidden, her laughter echoing in the hallway, her jacket tossed carelessly over a chair, the smell of her shampoo lingering in the bathroom, all details vivid in the minds of those who had loved her most. And now, decades later, the man identified by DNA, the invisible thread connecting him to Emily's vanishing, was physically present in the same room, and for the first time in 25 years, it felt like the past had collapsed into the present. Detectives recounted the investigation, the painstaking accumulation of evidence, the meticulous work of linking a single faint DNA sample to the suspect. They described the early days, the dead ends, the whispers of neighbors, the cryptic messages from strangers, the nights spent retracing Emily's steps, hoping for a glimpse, a clue, a break that never came. Every detail was a reminder of the cold case that had refused to die, the case that haunted files, walls, and memories alike. And as they spoke, the room seemed to vibrate with history, with longing, with the ache of justice delayed. Each word was measured, precise, a careful reconstruction of the long road traveled to reach this tenuous point of resolution. The prosecutor spoke with quiet intensity, painting a portrait of the suspect's movements, the connections to Emily's disappearance, the unrelenting pursuit of truth through science, instinct, and sheer determination. DNA, once a tool of imagination, now became the incontrovertible key, a bridge across decades, cutting through ambiguity with razor-sharp clarity. The courtroom absorbed the weight of the revelation, absorbing it not as abstract science, but as the vindication of years of anguish, the illumination of shadows that had lurked in plain sight for far too long. Every witness called to testify, every piece of forensic evidence presented, built an unstoppable narrative, a crescendo of tension rising through the room like a storm gathering on the horizon. Outside the courthouse, reporters jostled for position, microphones shoved into the hands of officials, cameras clicking relentlessly. Voices overlapped, stories emerging, fragments of facts merging into the public consciousness. The town listened, absorbed, reacted. Conversations erupted in cafes, offices, and living rooms. The streets pulsed with speculation and reflection, neighbors recalling small, previously overlooked details, moments that now seemed laden with significance. Every corner, every alley, every shadow from the past seemed charged with meaning, a reminder of the invisible hand of time shaping the trajectory of lives. Emily's friends spoke in hushed tones, recalling the girl who had been taken from them before her story could fully unfold. High school classmates remembered her smile, Her ambitions, the notes passed in classrooms, the way she had always offered a kind word, a laugh, a spark of life to everyone she encountered. Recollections were interwoven with grief, with relief, with the complicated mixture of emotions that accompanies the sudden emergence of truth from long shadows. Each narrative, each personal memory, layered onto the broader tapestry of the case, transforming the cold facts of science into the warmth of human remembrance and loss. The suspect remained largely silent, yet every subtle movement was observed, dissected, and catalogued. Detectives noted the slight twitch of a hand, the imperceptible shift in posture, the measured avoidance of eye contact, all of which suggested a mind wrestling with exposure and consequence. Psychologists consulted on the case speculated on the mental and emotional constructs that might have allowed the suspect to exist unnoticed in the community for decades, weaving between normality and the shadow of past crime. The juxtaposition of ordinary life with extraordinary deception created a tension that fascinated both professionals and the public alike, a story of hidden violence beneath the veneer of everyday calm. As the trial proceeded, the prosecution presented timelines, photographs, environmental reconstructions, and forensic analyses, weaving a relentless narrative. Each element of evidence added depth, texture, and weight, reinforcing the connection between the suspect and the fateful night when Emily Harper disappeared. The industrial lot, once a silent witness to mystery, was meticulously described, the details of weather, lighting, and spatial dimensions reconstructed with precision. Shadows cast by streetlights, the angle of approaching vehicles, and the subtle anomalies in witness statements formed a meticulous latticework, a grid of certainty rising from decades of uncertainty. Emily's family, watching from the gallery, felt the tension coalesce into a tangible form. Relief was tempered by the enduring pain of absence. Each exhibit, each testimony, resonated with memory and loss, underscoring the passage of time, the irreplaceable moments stolen by circumstance, and the complex reality that even with truth revealed, some voids could never be filled. Every photograph of Emily, every description of her movements, every recounting of the night she vanished brought both clarity and sorrow, reinforcing the human cost behind scientific discovery. Community sentiment was volatile, a mixture of relief, horror, fascination, and mourning. Parents spoke to children about vigilance, awareness, and resilience. Friends and neighbors revisited their own pasts, scrutinizing small interactions, reevaluating fleeting moments that had long seemed inconsequential. The arrest and trial served as both closure and confrontation, a stark reminder that danger can exist quietly, patiently, unnoticed in familiar spaces. The city itself seemed to breathe differently, its collective heartbeat altered by the revelation, by the slow awakening to truths that had lurked beneath the surface for a generation. Each day of testimony unveiled layers of the night Emily disappeared. Small clues, overlooked for decades, were resurrected. A discarded glove, a faint tire mark, a single strand of hair preserved in evidence, a neighbor's fleeting memory of movement in the fog. The confluence of these elements, now interpreted with modern technology and perspective, created a narrative both chilling and compelling. The story's tension derived not merely from the crime itself, but from the years of anticipation, speculation, and waiting, all coalescing into a moment of undeniable revelation that reverberated through both the courtroom and the wider community. Even as the trial marched forward, the lingering mystery persisted. Questions about motive, about intent, about the subtle psychological forces that shaped the night's events remained partially unresolved, leaving the audience with a persistent unease. The cold case, though illuminated by DNA and forensic clarity, retained its spectral presence, a reminder that certain truths, while knowable, never entirely absolved the pain and disruption caused. The shadow of Emily Harper's absence, the echo of her laughter and presence, continued to haunt every corner, every conversation, every pause in collective reflection. And as part 3 of the saga closes, the town is left suspended between past and present, between revelation and memory. The arrest has crystallized justice in tangible form, yet the emotional and psychological resonance of the crime remains, reverberating through the lives of those who knew, those who waited, and those who simply remembered. The story, though partially solved, is far from complete in its impact. It continues to echo, ripple, and resonate, a cautionary tale and a haunting testament to the endurance of truth, the persistence of memory, and the unrelenting shadow cast by a cold case finally brought into the light. The night after the trial began, the city seemed to exhale a tension it had been holding for 25 years. Streetlights cast long, trembling shadows across empty sidewalks, the fog rolling in from the ocean, a silent witness to the past and present colliding. Residents glanced out windows, half expecting movement where there should be none, half expecting the unseen hand of history to reach back and touch them. The industrial lot, the scene of Emily Harper's vanishing, lay dormant under the dim glow of sodium lights, weeds rustling like whispered voices, the asphalt cracked and uneven, each fissure a scar of forgotten moments, secrets and unanswered questions. The air smelled of damp earth and distant salt, the smell carrying the weight of memory, as if the city itself remembered Emily Harper and the violence that had altered her life, and all lives around her. Detectives returned to the lot at dawn. Cameras clicked as they documented every corner, every object, every shadow that might tell a story. Tire tracks long faded into the soil were retraced with forensic precision. Soil samples were analyzed for remnants of movement, particles once overlooked now offering potential clues. Every detail mattered, every microscopic fragment had a voice, and detectives, trained to listen to the whisper of evidence, interpreted them as though reading a novel written in traces, in dust, in decay. Emily Harper's absence was palpable, yet her presence lingered in the scene, a spectral outline in the fog, guiding the investigators, reminding them of the life that had intersected with danger in that singular, fateful night. Forensic experts delved into the DNA breakthrough that had reopened the case. The samples were tiny, almost invisible, degraded by decades, yet modern techniques had coaxed a full profile from what once seemed impossible. Polymerase chains, amplification, and meticulous sequencing revealed connections invisible to the human eye. The suspect's movements, once speculative, could now be traced with scientific clarity. Connections were drawn across maps, timelines, and evidence, revealing a chilling pattern of opportunity and proximity. Each new analysis deepened both understanding and horror. The man had existed quietly among them, invisible, mundane, until science exposed his shadowed past. Meanwhile, the town reacted in ways both subtle and profound. Conversations in cafes and supermarkets were dominated by the case. Did you know him? Could you have ever guessed? He walked among us all these years? Fear, fascination, and relief merged in a complex social web. Parents reevaluated routines, teenagers whispered the story like an urban legend, and older residents revisited memories they had long buried. A glimpse of someone unfamiliar near the lot, a fleeting figure at a bus stop, a knock at the wrong door. The arrest and DNA revelation had ignited collective reflection, and everyone became, in some measure, a witness to history, both past and present. Inside the courthouse, testimony continued. Witnesses from decades ago were called back to recount details remembered in fragments, impressions that had never seemed important, but now carried weight unimaginable at the time. A neighbor recalled the faint sound of footsteps in gravel, a rustle of clothing caught by the wind. A passing driver remembered a car parked oddly, lights dim, engine idling as if waiting. Each recollection, though incomplete, threaded into the tapestry of the investigation, filling spaces that had once been blank, bringing color to a canvas long faded by time. Lawyers meticulously connected these recollections to the suspect, juxtaposing memory with scientific fact, creating a narrative both undeniable and chilling. Outside, the community followed each day of proceedings with a morbid intensity. Local radio stations replayed key evidence, dissected testimony, and interviewed family members and experts. Social media amplified every detail, while forums buzzed with theories, memories, and conjecture. The story transcended simple resolution. It became a reflection on vigilance, the fragility of safety, and the persistence of hidden danger. The cold case had transformed into a public narrative, a cautionary tale, and a testament to the intersection of human perseverance and scientific advancement. The suspect remained enigmatic, silent, measured, a presence that drew attention not by volume but by its unnerving calm. Detectives studied his behavior, noting subtle shifts, the twitch of a finger, the lift of an eyebrow, the fleeting glance toward Emily's family. Each action was interpreted, catalogued, and theorized, offering glimpses into a mind that had existed in parallel to normal life, unobserved, undetected, until technology illuminated the truth. Psychologists consulted extensively, attempting to map patterns, motives, and the dissonance between apparent normality and hidden malice. The results were inconclusive yet haunting, the ordinary and the sinister, coexisting, intertwining, unobservable until evidence forced the revelation. Emily's family attended daily, absorbing the trial as both a cathartic and agonizing experience. Each piece of evidence, each recollection from the past, was a pulse of remembrance. They were simultaneously drawn into the meticulous details and forced to confront the cruel brevity of what had been lost. Years of absence, grief, and unanswered questions coalesced into moments of profound clarity, yet clarity brought no solace, only the piercing reminder that time once lost could never be recovered. Their presence in the courtroom became symbolic, a testament to endurance, love, and the unyielding pursuit of justice. Detectives also revisited the original investigation files, comparing early leads with current insights. Notes from the first officers on scene revealed overlooked clues, tire treads, footprints, ambiguous witness statements, and subtle environmental cues. These minor elements, once dismissed or lost in the noise, gained significance under the lens of modern scrutiny. The case, long dormant, had become a living document, evolving with every examination, demonstrating how patience, persistence, and evolving technology could converge to illuminate decades-old mysteries. Media coverage framed the story in dual narratives: the triumph of forensic science and the enduring human cost of unresolved violence. Reports highlighted the revolutionary techniques used to extract DNA, the meticulous cross-referencing of databases, and the relentless dedication of detectives. Simultaneously, the emotional depth of the story was not neglected. The anguish of Emily's parents, the shock of the community, the lingering societal unease, and the haunting questions about how evil could exist unnoticed among ordinary people. These narratives, technical and emotional, intertwined to produce a compelling saga that resonated far beyond the town's borders. As the trial progressed, the subtle nuances of human behavior took center stage. Witness credibility was assessed, patterns of avoidance scrutinized, the interplay between confession, denial, and body language dissected. Experts explained the importance of timing, context, and psychological projection, revealing that truth was not only in the evidence itself, but in how it interacted with human perception. Each courtroom exchange became a microcosm of the decades-long struggle, a battle between memory and forgetfulness, evidence and assumption, silence and revelation. The industrial lot, once merely a location, became a symbol, a focal point for understanding. Maps, 3D reconstructions, and reenactments illustrated the night Emily disappeared. Detectives demonstrated likely paths, escape routes, and timing, each calculation based on a fusion of witness recollection, forensic evidence, and environmental analysis. The once silent, forgotten space now spoke volumes, a conduit between the past and present, between absence and accountability, between mystery and resolution. Yet the haunting persistence of the cold case remained. Even with DNA linking the suspect, even with the arrest and the ongoing trial, uncertainty lingered in the air like the fog. Questions about motive, about the exact sequence of events, about what the final moments had been like for Emily, could never be fully answered. The community, the family, and even the detectives were left to inhabit a liminal space between knowledge and imagination, between resolution and haunting absence. As Part 4 concludes, the town feels suspended between revelation and reflection. The machinery of justice moves forward, the truth exposed by science and diligence, yet the human elements, the grief, the questions, the lingering sense of vulnerability, remain. Emily Harper's story, though partially illuminated, continues to echo in hearts and minds, a reminder that even with answers, some shadows never fully dissipate, that memory and loss persist long after the final verdict is read, and that cold cases, once reignited, leave ripples in both time and conscience, shaping every corner of the community that never forgot. Days blurred into nights as the trial continued, each courtroom session another pulse of tension that radiated far beyond the walls. The city held its collective breath, every cafe, grocery store, and school buzzing with fragments of conversation about Emily Harper, the girl who had vanished 25 years ago, the young woman whose absence had lingered like a shadow across the town. Detectives, lawyers, and forensic experts moved like instruments in a meticulously timed orchestra, Every step calculated, every word precise, every gesture weighted with the knowledge that decades of unanswered questions now depended on minute details and the truth they carried. Cameras perched at every angle, broadcasting the scene to audiences both local and national, each flash of the lens capturing history and obsession in equal measure. Emily's parents returned to the courtroom day after day, their eyes reflecting the exhaustion of decades spent waiting. Each piece of testimony, each slide of forensic evidence, each image of the industrial lot where their daughter had disappeared, was a jolt of memory, a reminder of loss that could never be erased. They listened as witnesses reconstructed nights long past, their words blending with the emotional resonance of memory. The sound of fog rolling over asphalt, distant footsteps crunching over gravel, a car idling silently beneath a flickering streetlight. Every detail, small and seemingly insignificant at the time, now carried weight, illuminating paths that had long been obscured by time and fear. The suspect maintained an unnerving calm, his composure a silent challenge to those seeking truth. Detectives observed him carefully, noting subtle movements, fleeting expressions, the twitch of a finger, a pause in speech, an unblinking stare toward Emily's family. Each nuance became data, feeding into an intricate psychological map, a reconstruction of motive and opportunity. Expert analysts provided context, linking behavior patterns to known criminal psychology, demonstrating how someone could exist among a community for decades, invisible yet impactful, unnoticed yet capable of catastrophic consequence. Meanwhile, the city itself seemed to exist in a state of heightened awareness. Streets that had once been routine now carried echoes of suspicion. Neighbors exchanged wary glances, remembering moments they had once dismissed. A car parked too long, a shadow moving against the fog, a knock at an unexpected hour. The arrest and DNA revelation had fractured normalcy, forcing the community to reckon with the reality that the ordinary and the sinister had once coexisted in the same spaces, unseen, unacknowledged, yet indelibly intertwined. Forensic technology continued to reveal astonishing details. Analysis of the soil, debris, and lingering trace evidence from the industrial lot offered minute insights into movements, timing, and interactions. Tire tracks, once blurred by rain, were reconstructed digitally to suggest precise sequences. Fibers, long thought insignificant, were matched with the suspect's possessions. Even the faintest remnants of human contact became testimony in the court of science and justice. The investigation, now decades removed from its origin, unfolded like a meticulously choreographed dance between evidence and intellect, technology and intuition, memory and deduction. Witnesses testified to seemingly small moments that now carried extraordinary significance. A neighbor remembered the dim outline of a figure near a fence. A delivery driver recalled an engine idling too long in the fog. These recollections, previously inconsequential, now connected to timelines, forensic reconstructions, and DNA evidence in ways that illuminated the dark corridors of the past. The courtroom absorbed the tension, each detail a spark, each recollection a tremor, the cumulative effect creating an almost unbearable anticipation, a collective suspension between revelation and comprehension. Emily's friends, now adults, revisited memories once dormant, their recollections blending innocence with grief. Shared laughs, secret notes, casual encounters, fragments of a life interrupted, became testimony to both loss and endurance. Their voices, delicate yet firm, reminded all present that Emily Harper was more than a cold case, more than a file, more than a set of data points. She was a person, a presence, a life intersected with violence, her story refracted through every witness, every piece of evidence, every emotion stirred in the courtroom and the town alike. Outside the courthouse, public attention remained relentless. Reporters dissected proceedings, interviews amplified the emotional stakes, and every headline carried both the thrill of resolution and the pang of tragedy. DNA breakthrough solves 1995 cold case. Emily Harper, justice decades in the making. Community stunned as missing woman's case reopens. The narrative transcended local interest, engaging national audiences, and the story became a template for understanding the interplay between time, technology, and the pursuit of justice in cases that had long defied resolution. The industrial lot, silent yet omnipresent, became a symbol of both crime and memory. Photographs circulated widely, showing cracked pavement, overgrown weeds, and faded markings, each image a portal to the night Emily disappeared. The space, once mundane, now resonated with the accumulated weight of investigation, grief, and revelation. Local residents visited the site quietly, leaving flowers, candles, notes, rituals of remembrance and mourning, small acts of recognition in a landscape forever altered by a single night and its unrelenting consequences. Detectives continued their painstaking reconstruction of the suspect's actions, using forensic analysis, witness statements, and psychological profiling to create a sequence of events that would survive scrutiny in court. Each step, each motion, each decision was retraced with precision. Emily's movements, the suspect's approach, the timing of environmental factors like fog density and vehicle placement. The narrative unfolded with increasing clarity, a choreography of crime and consequence that illuminated long-hidden truths, while exposing the chilling normality of evil, existing unnoticed in familiar surroundings. Even as evidence accumulated and testimony progressed, the human cost remained palpable. Emily's parents endured the agonizing juxtaposition of satisfaction and grief, the long-awaited acknowledgement of truth paired with the unalterable absence of their daughter's life. Their presence, stoic yet vulnerable, underscored the emotional weight of the cold case, serving as a living reminder that justice, while necessary, could never fully restore what had been lost. The courtroom, though a venue for resolution, also became a theater of mourning, reflection, and the enduring complexity of human experience. The trial's unfolding served as a mirror to the community, reflecting both collective fear and resilience. Citizens examined their own lives, their routines, and their interactions, searching for overlooked details or reconsidering past assumptions. The case became a catalyst for discussion, a lens through which ordinary people evaluated the fragility of security, the persistence of hidden danger, and the ethical responsibilities of vigilance and awareness. The story of Emily Harper, once confined to personal tragedy, now expanded into a broader narrative about society, perception, and the enduring quest for justice. As Part 5 concludes, the story remains suspended between revelation and lingering shadows. The cold case has been illuminated by DNA, the suspect held accountable, yet the emotional and psychological resonance of decades-long absence persists. Emily Harper's presence, absent yet undeniable, continues to echo through the lives of those who knew her, those who sought answers, and those who watched from a distance, captivated by a tale where science and persistence intersect with human memory, grief, and the inexorable pursuit of truth. The saga, though partially resolved, leaves a haunting imprint, a reminder that justice, while powerful, cannot fully erase the marks left by time, loss, and the silence of a cold case finally exposed to the light. The courthouse seemed to pulse with a life of its own, the tension inside thick enough to feel in the chest, each word spoken, each piece of evidence revealed, striking like a hammer against years of silence. Outside, fog rolled over the streets like a living thing, brushing against buildings, curling around corners, and hiding the city in a haze that mirrored the obscured truth that had lasted for a quarter century. Emily Harper's story had transcended the bounds of a missing person report, becoming a force that shaped daily life, forced reflection, and haunted minds long accustomed to normalcy. Every shadow, every flicker of movement, every sound in the night was now filtered through the prism of the unsolved, the unknown, and the suddenly revealed. Inside, detectives traced the suspect's actions with relentless scrutiny. His path through the city, once invisible to the eyes of investigators, was reconstructed with painstaking precision. Data points, environmental reconstructions, and witness recollections were fused together to form a timeline that bridged decades of uncertainty. Even the smallest details, mud on shoe soles, faint impressions in soil, residual fibers, were examined under magnification, their subtle presence now carrying monumental significance. It was a meticulous dance of observation and deduction, and each step brought the story closer to a terrifying clarity. The courtroom itself became a stage for the collision of past and present. Witnesses were asked to recall moments buried under layers of time. The flicker of a figure in fog, the subtle hum of an engine idling too long, the faint echo of laughter that vanished abruptly. Memories once ephemeral and fragile now carried weight. Every word could alter perception. Every pause might reveal intent. The prosecution wove these fragments into a narrative that was both compelling and horrifying, showing how ordinary life and hidden malevolence had intersected on that fateful night. Emily's parents sat in silence, their hands intertwined, faces etched with the duality of relief and sorrow. Each photograph, each slide of forensic evidence, reopened wounds and yet offered a measure of vindication. They listened to the reconstructed timeline with a mixture of disbelief and affirmation, as the sequence of events slowly revealed how the threads of their daughter's last night had been pulled together with methodical precision. The tension was palpable. The cold facts of DNA and forensic science intersected with the raw, emotional truth of loss and absence. The media coverage was relentless. Headlines screamed of DNA breakthroughs and decades-long mysteries solved. Live streams, news broadcasts, and online commentaries dissected every angle of the case, from the minutiae of forensic analysis to the psychological profile of the suspect. California cold case solved. DNA brings closure after 25 years. Emily Harper. A town confronts the past. Unseen danger revealed through modern science. Each story amplified both fascination and unease, a testament to the human compulsion for justice, narrative, and resolution, even decades after the original event. Outside the courthouse, the community was restless. Conversations in coffee shops, grocery aisles, and schools revolved around what had been discovered, each new revelation causing both shock and reflection. Parents became more vigilant, recalling minor incidents once dismissed, while teenagers whispered the story as if it were an urban legend, a cautionary tale, a shadow stretching over their own lives. Even those who had no direct connection to Emily Harper felt the residual tension, as though the entire city had been touched by the invisible hand of danger, and only now, illuminated by science and persistence, could it be confronted. Forensic teams continued to analyze every trace of evidence from the industrial lot, from residue in crevices to microscopic fibers clinging to surfaces long exposed to weather. The tiniest particles, long ignored or considered irrelevant, became critical in constructing a full picture of the events. Each breakthrough revealed patterns of movement, sequences of action, and the chilling precision with which the suspect had operated. It was a testament to the power of science and persistence, a reminder that even decades-old mysteries could be unraveled when diligence and technology converged. Witnesses, some of whom had lived with the memory for years, shared recollections that painted a vivid and unsettling tableau. A neighbor described a fleeting silhouette, a figure bending in the shadows, vanishing as quickly as it had appeared. Another recalled the sound of tires crunching over gravel, a detail long forgotten but now crucial in establishing the timeline. Each recollection, though fragmentary, added depth, tension, and gravity to the narrative, illustrating how seemingly trivial observations could become pivotal when re-examined under the lens of modern investigation. The suspect remained a study in contrasts. Outwardly calm, internalized, inscrutable. Detectives and psychologists alike scrutinized him for cues, patterns, and inconsistencies. Every gesture, glance, and expression was analyzed for insight into motive and state of mind. His silence was as telling as any confession, his composure a stark counterpoint to the anguish and intensity that surrounded him. In the interplay between evidence, observation, and human psychology, the story unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance of crime, consequence, and revelation. Emily Harper's friends, reunited in court, recounted the girl she had been, lively, intelligent, full of dreams, and contrasted that memory with the stark reality of her absence. Their testimonies, filled with sorrow and reflection, reminded all present that beyond the science, the DNA, and the investigation, there was a human being whose life had been altered irreversibly. Every smile remembered, every laugh recalled, every whispered conversation brought weight to the proceedings, reinforcing the tragedy of time lost and the enduring resonance of memory. As Part 6 concludes, the story remains suspended in tension. The cold case has been illuminated, the suspect exposed, justice pursued, yet the human cost remains profound. Emily Harper's absence continues to echo, shaping the perceptions, conversations, and collective memory of the town. The fog still rolls in from the Pacific, curling around streets and buildings, hiding familiar sights in shadows, a silent reminder that even as truth emerges, some mysteries leave indelible marks on the human psyche, on the landscape, and on the fragile fabric of community life. The saga continues, an intricate interplay of memory, science, grief, and the relentless pursuit of justice that refuses to be silenced by time. The town felt suspended in a peculiar limbo, a space between relief and lingering dread, as the trial pressed forward. Every street, every alley, every empty lot seemed charged with memory, each step echoing the passage of 25 years of unanswered questions. Residents passed one another with subtle glances, as if recognizing that danger had once walked unnoticed among them, and that the fabric of normal life had been pierced by unseen hands. Cafes, offices, and schools buzzed with quiet conversation. The phrase Emily Harper, spoken in hushed, reverent tones, the name itself a bridge between memory, grief, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Inside the courtroom, detectives presented evidence with a precision honed by decades of experience. Photographs were laid out, meticulously catalogued. Forensic analyses displayed in painstaking detail. Tire treads, soil imprints, and fiber samples, once overlooked, now became keys to understanding the night Emily disappeared. Witness testimonies were intertwined with scientific reconstructions, each statement verified against environmental conditions, surveillance records, and forensic timelines. The narrative built momentum, a crescendo of tension that seemed to pulse through the room, commanding attention, demanding comprehension, leaving no shadow unexamined. Emily's parents sat through it all, their faces etched with a mixture of sorrow and fragile hope. Each new piece of evidence was a jolt to memory, a reminder of loss yet a promise of accountability. Photographs of Emily's room, her belongings, and the spaces she once occupied brought a visceral understanding of what had been stolen, and yet offered a form of vindication that truth, though delayed, could still arrive. Every detail reconstructed in court was both a triumph of method and a deep wound reopened, a testament to the duality of justice delayed yet pursued with unwavering determination. The suspect remained composed, a quiet figure amid the storm of testimony and evidence. Detectives scrutinized every subtle gesture. The tilt of a head, the shift in posture, the occasional twitch of a finger. Psychologists offered analysis, interpreting silence, micro-expressions, and patterns of avoidance, attempting to understand a mind that had moved undetected among ordinary life. The contrast between his calm exterior and the turbulence around him became almost theatrical, a living illustration of how appearances can mask the darkest realities. Outside, the city continued to absorb the unfolding saga. Local and national media covered the trial relentlessly, broadcasting every revelation, dissecting every detail, analyzing both evidence and behavior. Headlines alternated between triumph and horror. DNA solves 25-year cold case. Emily Harper town confronts hidden danger. Justice and memory collide in California mystery. Conversations in homes and workplaces trace the contours of fear, curiosity, and reflection, as ordinary citizens grappled with the knowledge that the ordinary can mask the extraordinary, that evil can persist in silence, waiting for exposure. Forensic scientists returned repeatedly to the industrial lot, a silent theater of memory and method. Soil samples were examined, fibers analyzed, environmental reconstructions refined. The patterns of movement were mapped with geometric precision, and sequences that had been long obscured by time and decay were reconstructed to reveal chilling clarity. Even the faintest traces, dust, residue, or abrasion, became testimony, bridging decades of silence with the light of modern technology, illustrating how science could illuminate the darkest corners of human action. Witnesses recounted long-forgotten details that now bore immense significance. A neighbor's memory of headlights cutting through fog, a pedestrian's recollection of a distant engine hum, a delivery driver's fleeting impression of a figure in motion, all combined to form a complex lattice of perception and reality. These fragments of memory, once deemed inconsequential, now converged with forensic precision to paint a sequence of events at once horrifying and meticulous, revealing how chance, observation, and hidden malevolence intersected that night. Emily's friends, returning to court after decades, spoke of the girl she had been. Vivacious, ambitious, full of life, a presence that had touched many. Their recollections juxtaposed with forensic fact created a narrative that was both emotional and concrete, a testament to the human cost that lay behind DNA sequences and legal arguments. Every shared memory, every story of laughter or kindness, highlighted the enormity of what had been lost, and yet underscored the resilience of those who remembered and testified. The industrial lot, though silent, exerted an omnipresent influence over proceedings. Its cracked asphalt, overgrown weeds, and faint traces of human activity became emblematic of both crime and memory. Investigators, journalists, and the public recognized it as a stage where past and present converged, a locus where forensic science, human recollection, and the relentless pursuit of justice intersected. Each footprint, each trace, each shadow of memory served as a reminder that spaces hold stories, and that truth, though dormant, can emerge when the proper lens is applied. Community vigilance intensified. Parents recounted the case to children as a lesson in awareness and caution. Neighbors revisited past interactions, recalling minor details that had once gone unnoticed. Schools used the story as a case study in forensic science, journalism, and ethics. The narrative became embedded in the collective consciousness, a stark illustration of how time, memory, and persistence interact to uncover truths long buried beneath the surface of ordinary life. As Part 7 closes, the town exists in the uneasy tension between revelation and residual fear. DNA and forensic breakthroughs have illuminated the truth. The suspect has been exposed, yet the shadow of Emily Harper's absence lingers. The story continues to ripple through lives, conversations, and consciousness, a haunting reminder that while science and diligence can uncover facts, the emotional resonance of loss and the weight of unresolved moments persist. Justice, though partially served, exists alongside enduring grief and reflection, and the cold case, once hidden in darkness, continues to echo in every corner of the community that refuses to forget. The trial entered its most intense phase, a crucible where decades of uncertainty collided with unflinching scrutiny. Every detail mattered, every word could shift perception, and the air in the courtroom seemed charged with electricity. The suspect's calm exterior contrasted sharply with the raw emotion that radiated from Emily Harper's family and friends, creating a tension that was palpable, almost suffocating. Reporters captured every nuance, their cameras flashing intermittently, recording history in motion, every shutter click a heartbeat marking the slow pulse of revelation and suspense. Detectives presented meticulously reconstructed timelines, overlaying witness recollections, forensic data, and environmental analysis into a single coherent narrative. Each step, each movement, each anomaly from that night was painstakingly traced. Footprints along cracked pavement, tire marks fading into gravel, fibers once overlooked now linked through modern analysis. The industrial lot, silent for decades, spoke volumes through its residual evidence, a mute testament to the events that had shattered lives and left a town haunted. The convergence of memory and method created a tapestry that was chilling in its precision, forcing the community to confront both the brutality of crime and the extraordinary capacity of science to illuminate the darkest corners of human action. Emily's parents observed with a mixture of grief, hope, and disbelief. Every photograph, every map, every piece of DNA evidence invoked decades of absence and the unrelenting question, why her, why that night? They listened intently as experts detailed movements, reconstructed timelines, and explained forensic breakthroughs, each revelation simultaneously easing and intensifying their pain. Their presence, stoic yet profoundly human, reminded the courtroom that beyond the science and legal arguments existed a life violently interrupted, a daughter lost to the uncertainty of a cold case that refused to die. The suspect, seated under the unblinking gaze of the court, displayed a meticulous control of demeanor that unsettled observers. Detectives and behavioral analysts scrutinized micro-expressions, gestures, and posture for insight into motivation and intent. Silence itself became a tool, a space pregnant with implication, revealing as much as testimony could. The interplay of observation and deduction unfolded like a psychological chess game, where every subtle cue might reveal a hidden truth or conceal a deeper deception. In this arena, ordinary life and extraordinary malice intertwined in a complex, unsettling dance. Outside, the city lived in the aftershocks of decades-long suspense. Streets, once familiar and mundane, now carried the weight of memory and speculation. Conversations traced the contours of fear, curiosity, and relief. Residents revisited their own recollections. A shadow that had seemed meaningless, a car parked too long, an unusual sound in the fog. The revelation of the suspect's presence and the power of DNA science forced everyone to consider the possibility that danger had been quietly interwoven into daily life, undetectable yet profoundly consequential. Forensic teams continue to analyze the smallest remaining traces of the industrial lot. Soil, residue, fibers, and environmental markers were scrutinized under advanced technology, revealing subtle details that illuminated the suspect's path with staggering clarity. Even elements once dismissed, dust in a corner, microscopic traces of clothing, now contributed to an intricate reconstruction of the night's events. Every fragment became a witness, every anomaly a key, and together they formed a chain that spanned decades, unbreakable and precise, linking the suspect irrevocably to Emily Harper's disappearance. Witnesses recounted memories long dormant, fragments of sight, sound, and sensation that had been buried by time. The faint engine hum, the distant crunch of gravel, the shimmer of headlights through fog, each detail gained significance, forming a lattice of events that intersected with forensic evidence and psychological profiling. These recollections, fragile and incomplete, became the threads that wove a compelling narrative of truth, illuminating the hidden choreography of human action on a night long forgotten, yet now vivid with clarity. Emily's friends testified with raw emotion, balancing grief with the need to give voice to a life lost. Their memories of her energy, kindness, and ambition were juxtaposed against the stark realities reconstructed in court, creating a poignant contrast between who she had been and the tragedy of her absence. Each recollection was a tether to the human cost of the crime, a reminder that beneath every DNA match and timeline lay a story of laughter silenced, opportunities lost, and the enduring ache of absence that no scientific breakthrough could fully alleviate. The industrial lot itself became a symbol, a nexus of memory, science, and justice. Cracked pavement, overgrown weeds, and faint remnants of past activity bore witness to decades of mystery, pain, and perseverance. For investigators, it was a site of revelation. For the town, it was a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary collided, where time and memory intersected to create both horror and understanding. Every step taken there, every measurement and reconstruction, bridged the gap between absence and accountability, between speculation and certainty, between the shadows of the past and the illumination of truth. Community reactions remained intense. Parents shared cautionary stories with children, neighbors revisited long-forgotten encounters, and discussions about vigilance, observation, and responsibility permeated daily life. The story of Emily Harper transcended individual tragedy, becoming a collective meditation on safety, trust, and the persistence of hidden dangers. The cold case had evolved from an unsolved disappearance into a narrative that reshaped the social and emotional landscape of the city, a powerful reminder that even decades of silence cannot obscure the impact of one life disrupted by violence. As Part 8 closes, the town remains in a liminal space between resolution and lingering unease. The DNA breakthrough has revealed the suspect, the courtroom has illuminated the past, yet the echoes of Emily Harper's absence continue to reverberate. Justice, though achieved in procedural terms, coexists with grief, memory, and reflection. The cold case, long dormant and shrouded in uncertainty, has emerged into the light, yet its resonance persists, haunting the lives of those who remember, those who observe, and those who strive to reconcile the intersection of science, memory, and the unyielding weight of human loss. The courtroom grew heavier with each passing day, the air saturated with tension, anticipation, and the ghosts of decades-old uncertainty. Every testimony, every exhibit, every microscopic detail presented seemed to reverberate through the room, echoing far beyond the walls. Reporters hunched over microphones and cameras, capturing the story as if it were being written in real time, the clicks of shutters and the scribble of notes forming a rhythm, a heartbeat that matched the collective anxiety of the town. Emily Harper's disappearance, once a faint whisper in the collective memory, had become an omnipresent force, demanding attention, reflection, and reckoning. Detectives meticulously traced the suspect's path with digital reconstructions, overlaying environmental data, witness recollections, and forensic analysis into a precise, chilling sequence. Tire treads along cracked asphalt, faint impressions in soil, fibers preserved for decades, all formed a network of evidence that converged to illuminate the night Emily vanished. The industrial lot, silent yet omnipotent, spoke in a language of traces, shadows, and residual presence. Each piece of evidence, no matter how small, became a sentence in the narrative, a marker on the map of tragedy, a step closer to uncovering the truth that had eluded the town for a generation. Emily's parents watched with strained composure, their hands intertwined, eyes shadowed with grief yet brightened with the fragile spark of vindication. Every photograph, every forensic diagram, every expert testimony brought clarity, yet reopened wounds. They were reminded of her laughter, her light, her presence that had been stolen, and yet, amidst the grief, there was a profound recognition that the invisible threads of truth were finally being woven into form, linking suspect to crime with a precision that decades of uncertainty could not withstand. The emotional weight of decades-long absence pressed against them, yet the slow illumination of justice offered a measure of solace, delicate but undeniable. The suspect, calm yet unerringly present, drew the gaze of all who observed. Detectives and behavioral experts analyzed his posture, gestures, and expressions with relentless intensity. A tilt of the head, a pause in speech, a flicker of the eye, each became data. Each a window into a mind that had remained undetected for a quarter century. His silence was loaded with implication, his stillness a mirror of the tension around him. The courtroom became a theater of observation, a psychological arena where human perception intersected with forensic certainty, and where the ordinary and sinister coexisted in uneasy, chilling balance. Outside, the city was electrified by the unfolding events. Streets once mundane, now resonated with memory and speculation. Conversations in homes, cafes, and schools traced the contours of danger previously unnoticed. Parents recounted stories to children as cautionary tales, neighbors re-examined fleeting memories, and a collective reflection on vigilance and awareness permeated daily life. The revelation of the suspect's connection and the power of DNA technology forced the community to confront an uncomfortable truth. Evil can exist quietly, invisibly, and for decades, shaping lives without leaving an obvious trace until science and persistence illuminate the shadow. Forensic scientists revisited the industrial lot repeatedly, examining soil, debris, fibers, and environmental traces with advancing technology. Small anomalies, once dismissed, now contributed to a reconstruction so detailed it bordered on prescience. Tire marks were digitally reconstructed, sequences of motion inferred, and the choreography of the night meticulously mapped. The convergence of witness memory, environmental cues, and scientific analysis formed a narrative of terrifying clarity, a sequence of events so precise it left no room for doubt, yet maintained the chilling echo of horror. Witnesses recounted moments once buried in forgetfulness. A fleeting engine hum, the rustle of fabric, a silhouette passing in the fog. Each fragment, fragile and incomplete, now took on monumental significance, combining with forensic findings to construct a lattice of truth. The courtroom became a canvas for both memory and method, every word a brushstroke, every detail a layer in the intricate portrait of a night that had shaped decades of grief and vigilance. Emily's friends testified, balancing sorrow with the imperative to honor her life. Their stories illuminated the human dimension behind the case. A young woman full of potential, laughter, and dreams, silenced before her story could unfold. These personal recollections intertwined with forensic reconstruction, creating a narrative that was both emotionally compelling and scientifically precise. The duality of grief and evidence underscored the human cost of crime, the complexity of memory, and the enduring weight of absence that no breakthrough in science could entirely erase. The industrial lot, overgrown and cracked, had transformed into a symbolic stage where past and present collided. Residual traces, environmental anomalies, and forensic reconstructions combined to breathe life into spaces once silent. Every footprint, every shard of evidence, every shadow of memory converged to illustrate how a single night could leave an indelible imprint on lives, community consciousness, and the very geography of a town. It was a landscape where absence spoke louder than presence, and where truth, though delayed, emerged in painstaking clarity. Community reflection intensified as the trial progressed. Ordinary citizens became part of a collective reckoning, revisiting the past through the lens of new evidence, contemplating the fragility of safety, and acknowledging the persistence of hidden danger. Conversations traced memory, speculation, and ethical questions, transforming the case into a societal meditation on vigilance, accountability, and the passage of time. Emily Harper's story had evolved beyond a missing person investigation. It had become a cultural narrative, a reminder that truth, though delayed, can resonate across generations. As Part 9 concludes, the cold case stands revealed yet still haunting. The DNA breakthrough, the testimony, the reconstructions, all illuminate the crime, yet cannot fill the void left by absence. Emily Harper's presence lingers in memory, in spaces, in conversations, in every heartbeat of a town that refused to forget. Justice, while partially realized, coexists with grief, reflection, and the quiet echo of unanswered questions. The saga continues, a collision of memory, science, and human resilience, a testament to the enduring power of truth, the unyielding shadow of loss, and the haunting resonance of a cold case finally exposed to the light. The courtroom's atmosphere thickened as the trial moved toward its climax, the weight of 25 years pressing on every participant. Each word spoken, each exhibit displayed, carried decades of unanswered questions, grief, and fear. Reporters leaned forward, capturing the tension with lenses and microphones, while jurors absorbed the gravity of evidence that seemed almost cinematic in its precision. Outside, fog curled around streetlights and buildings, a visual echo of the obscured truth that had haunted the town for a generation, a reminder that for decades, danger had walked silently among them. Detectives and forensic experts meticulously layered evidence, connecting witness testimony, environmental reconstruction, and DNA analysis into an unbroken sequence. Tire marks, footprints, residual fibers, and faint traces of soil, all fragments once overlooked, now coalesced into a precise narrative of the night Emily Harper disappeared. The industrial lot, silent for decades, spoke volumes through these residues, each detail a whisper from the past, revealing a choreography of movement that intertwined the ordinary with the malevolent. The methodical unveiling of these truths sent shivers through observers, as invisible threads of past events became undeniable fact. Emily's parents sat in tense anticipation, their expressions a mixture of sorrow and fragile hope. Each photograph, diagram, and expert account transported them back, yet also grounded them in revelation. They remembered Emily's laughter, her energy, her dreams, memories that clashed painfully with the forensic facts being revealed. Yet within the sorrow, there was a measure of vindication. For the first time in a quarter century, the truth was emerging, framed not only by memory and grief but by the unyielding precision of modern science. The suspect, unervingly composed, became a focal point of observation. Micro-expressions, subtle gestures, shifts in posture, and the minutiae of body language were scrutinized by detectives and psychologists alike. His silence, his stillness were themselves revealing. In the tension of the courtroom, every pause spoke volumes, every glance carried implication. Observers found themselves drawn into a psychological web, witnessing a rare display of ordinary life and concealed malevolence intersecting under the unblinking gaze of the law. Outside, the town continued to absorb the reverberations of revelation. Streets that had once been mundane now seemed charged with memory, each familiar corner shadowed by the knowledge that a hidden danger had existed for decades. Conversations in cafes, offices, and schools centered on the case. Fragments of past observations were reconsidered, fleeting suspicions validated, and the entire community engaged in a collective reflection on the fragility of safety and the imperceptible ways in which threats can exist among them unnoticed. The story transcended a single tragedy, becoming a mirror for society, ethics, and vigilance. Forensic teams returned repeatedly to the industrial lot, analyzing soil, fibers, residue, and environmental markers with the latest technology. Each fragment contributed to the reconstruction of a sequence of events, so precise it bordered on eerie foresight. Tire tracks were digitized, footprints modeled in 3 dimensions, environmental conditions mapped and aligned with witness recollection. The meticulous interplay of evidence and expertise revealed the suspect's actions with terrifying clarity, a demonstration of how patience, technology, and human skill could illuminate truths long buried in time and silence. Witnesses recounted long-forgotten details, the faint sound of a car engine in the fog, a fleeting shadow moving through the lot, the shuffle of fabric against gravel. Each memory, delicate and partial, gained monumental importance in constructing the narrative of that night. The courtroom became a theater where recollection, deduction, and forensic science converged. Every testimony a brushstroke in the intricate painting of truth, a story once hidden now emerging with stark clarity and profound consequence. Emily's friends, testifying with raw emotion, highlighted the human dimension of the case. Their memories, laughter shared, ambitions nurtured, ordinary life interrupted, juxtaposed the forensic reconstruction, reminding all present that beneath DNA sequences, timelines, and technical analysis, there was a real human life violently disrupted. Their voices carried both grief and strength, a testament to the enduring impact of loss, and the necessity of memory in shaping understanding and empathy. The industrial lot itself had become almost mythical in its significance. Cracked asphalt, overgrown weeds, and the residual traces of a night-long past now commanded attention and reverence. It was a space where the ordinary and the extraordinary converged, a physical manifestation of absence, a silent witness to crime, memory, and revelation. Every footprint, every residue, every subtle environmental anomaly testified to the passage of time, the presence of danger, and the painstaking work that had finally brought clarity to decades of darkness. Community reflection deepened as the trial advanced. Citizens revisited their own lives, minor incidents, and fleeting observations with new awareness, contemplating how hidden malevolence had existed unnoticed. The story of Emily Harper transcended a single event, evolving into a collective meditation on vigilance, trust, and the fragility of safety. The cold case became both a cautionary tale and a study in perseverance, illustrating how even the smallest details, when examined with rigor and patience, can illuminate long-buried truths. As Part 10 concludes, the cold case stands revealed, yet its shadows linger. DNA breakthroughs, forensic reconstructions, and expert testimony have illuminated the crime, exposing the suspect, yet the absence of Emily Harper continues to echo through the town. Justice, while operationally achieved, coexists with grief, reflection, and the haunting reminder that some wounds, even when truth is uncovered, never fully heal. The saga continues, an interplay of memory, science, loss, and resilience, a testament to the enduring weight of unresolved absence, the power of revelation, and the haunting resonance of a cold case brought into the unforgiving light of accountability. The courtroom's tension reached its zenith, a weight that pressed into the bones of everyone present, a culmination of decades of uncertainty, grief, and relentless investigation. Every eye was fixed, every ear straining, every heartbeat echoing the suspense of truth finally converging with justice. Reporters leaned forward, pens scratching, cameras clicking, capturing every detail of a story that had haunted a community for 25 years. The fog outside curled thickly around the streets, swallowing familiar landmarks, as if nature itself mirrored the lingering mystery that had long shrouded Emily Harper's fate. Detectives meticulously recounted the chain of evidence, the digital reconstructions of the suspect's path, the alignment of witness testimonies, and the DNA matches that finally pierced decades of ambiguity. Tire tracks, soil impressions, fibers, and residual traces, all once inconsequential, were now threads of a narrative that wove clarity through years of silence. The industrial lot, silent yet omnipresent, served as both stage and witness, its cracked asphalt and overgrown weeds transformed into the tangible memory of a night that had forever altered lives. Every detail was a revelation, every fragment a testament to the extraordinary persistence required to illuminate a long-buried truth. Emily's parents sat rigidly, their expressions a tableau of grief and fragile relief. Photographs of her room, diagrams of the crime scene, and timelines reconstructed with exacting precision revived memories of her life, while simultaneously confronting them with the chilling facts of her disappearance. Their grief was palpable, a heavy presence in the courtroom, yet interwoven with a delicate sense of vindication. For the first time in 25 years, the invisible threads of evidence and justice converged, offering proof that their daughter's story, though interrupted, was finally being told in full. The suspect, composed and almost eerily still, became the focal point of scrutiny. Behavioral analysts dissected his every movement, his micro-expressions, the subtle shifts in posture. Silence became a language, a window into intent and motive. Every glance toward the family, every twitch of a finger, every pause in speech was parsed with clinical precision, revealing as much as testimony could. The courtroom became a stage where human psychology, forensic science, and memory intertwined, illustrating the unsettling normalcy of hidden malevolence that had gone unnoticed for decades. Outside, the town absorbed the unfolding drama in waves of apprehension and reflection. Streets that once felt ordinary now seemed fraught with memory, each corner and alley infused with awareness of what had once gone unnoticed. Cafes, offices, and homes buzzed with conversation as citizens revisited minor incidents from years past. A shadow, a car idling, a sound in the fog, realizing that these fragments once dismissed had been clues all along. The story transcended Emily Harper alone. It became a meditation on vigilance, awareness, and the unseen dangers woven into daily life. Forensic teams returned to the industrial lot again and again, uncovering subtle details that further clarified the sequence of events. Dust, residue, microscopic fibers, and environmental markers were all measured, reconstructed, and mapped with modern technology. Tire tracks were digitally recreated, movements simulated, and timelines cross-referenced with environmental conditions and witness statements. The meticulous assembly of data produced a clarity that was both awe-inspiring and chilling, revealing the calculated precision of the suspect and the vulnerability of a life disrupted by unseen hands. Witnesses shared memories that had lain dormant for decades. The faint hum of an engine, the shimmer of headlights through fog, the fleeting outline of a figure moving with intent. Each recollection, once fragile and incomplete, now became a critical component in reconstructing the events of that night. The courtroom, dense with testimony, forensic evidence, and emotional weight, transformed into a theater where memory and method converged to expose a truth long obscured, illuminating the interplay between chance observation and deliberate action. Emily's friends testified with raw, unfiltered emotion, recounting her laughter, her ambitions, her everyday kindness. Their recollections contrasted sharply with the forensic reconstruction of the night, creating a narrative tension that highlighted both what had been lost and the persistence of memory as a witness. Their voices carried the weight of decades, bridging grief and hope, underscoring the human cost of crime and the enduring impact of absence that no DNA sequence or timeline could fully capture. The industrial lot remained a silent sentinel, its cracked pavement and overgrown weeds transformed into symbols of memory, persistence, and revelation. It was both stage and witness, a locus where absence and truth converged, a space where the passage of decades could be traced through science, testimony, and observation. Each detail, from the faintest soil imprint to the residual fibers preserved by time, spoke of human presence and human loss, a chilling reminder that the ordinary can conceal the extraordinary and that truth, no matter how delayed, can eventually surface. The community, grappling with the shock and resolution, engaged in reflection. Minor details once overlooked, interactions once dismissed, and fleeting memories were reconsidered with new perspective. The case became a prism through which citizens examined trust, vigilance, and the fragility of safety. Emily Harper's story evolved from personal tragedy into a collective narrative of awareness, justice, and the inexorable power of persistence, illustrating how decades of uncertainty can ultimately yield to clarity when memory, science, and human will converge. As the final moments of the trial approached, the echoes of Emily Harper's absence lingered palpably. DNA breakthroughs, forensic reconstructions, and expert testimony illuminated the night that had haunted a community, yet could not erase the void left in her wake. Justice, partially realized through accountability and revelation, coexists with grief, reflection, and the enduring resonance of memory. The cold case, once dormant, now radiates with clarity and consequence, yet its shadow persists, a haunting reminder that some truths illuminate while others linger, echoing through hearts, streets, and generations, leaving an indelible mark on all who bore witness to a life interrupted, a town transformed, and a mystery finally irrevocably revealed. Even after the courtroom emptied, even after the last photograph and piece of testimony had been archived, the city remained suspended in the shadow of Emily Harper. Streets, once ordinary, seemed charged with memory. Fog curling around lampposts and alleyways carried whispers of the past. Cafes, grocery stores, and classrooms hummed with conversations that revisited what had been uncovered and what remained intangible. The absence, the ache, the questions that lingered in silent corners. The industrial lot, overgrown and cracked, stood untouched yet alive with resonance, a monument to what had occurred, and a reminder that some places never let go of memory. Families recounted stories to children in quiet tones, shadows of caution stitched into everyday life. Neighbors remembered fleeting glimpses, faint sounds, and encounters they had once dismissed, now reframed by the revelation that danger can walk unnoticed for decades. Every mundane routine carried a shadow, every familiar path a hidden story, and the town learned that vigilance is not born of fear alone, but from the awareness that even ordinary life can conceal extraordinary darkness. Emily's parents, finally able to confront the truth, walked the streets carrying grief alongside a fragile vindication. They felt the town's collective heartbeat, a mixture of sorrow, relief, and awe at the persistence of justice. Memories of their daughter, her laughter, her voice, her presence, remained vivid, yet the forensic clarity of DNA and evidence offered a measure of accountability. It was a peace tethered to recognition rather than return, a reconciliation with absence rather than closure. The suspect's shadow lingered even as he was led away, the psychological imprint of his decades of concealment, leaving a chill across witnesses and citizens alike. Behavioral experts spoke of the human capacity for deception, the ordinariness of evil, and the way some minds can coexist with communities undetected, a haunting reminder that the unseen is often the most dangerous. His presence, now removed, could not erase the subtle, pervasive sense of unease that had woven into the fabric of the town's collective memory. Forensic science, once a distant hope, proved its enduring power. The tiniest fibers, the faintest soil traces, the most overlooked fragments of memory converged to illuminate decades-old mysteries. Yet science could not replace the human dimension. Grief, absence, reflection, and the persistent question of what might have been. Technology illuminated truth, but it also amplified the haunting sense of loss, a resonance that echoed in homes, schools, streets, and hearts long after the trial had ended. Community rituals emerged quietly: flowers at the industrial lot, candles in windows, notes left in parks. Acts of remembrance became part of the city's rhythm, small gestures that acknowledged the presence of a life taken too soon, the silence left behind, and the enduring power of memory. Emily Harper's story had transformed from a file in an archive into a collective narrative, a cautionary tale, and a testament to the persistence of truth, reverberating in ways that neither time nor absence could erase. Even as years pass, the fog still rolls in from the Pacific, curling along streets and hills, carrying with it a sense of suspended memory. The town, forever altered, holds a silent pact: to remember, to reflect, and to acknowledge the shadows that once hid in plain sight. Emily Harper's absence continues to ripple, a haunting echo of what was lost and a reminder of the fragility of life, the power of persistence, and the inexorable pursuit of justice that refused to be silenced by time. The cold case, though officially resolved, lives on in conversation, in memory, in quiet observation of ordinary life. Every corner of the city, every overgrown lot, every shadowed street, carries a whisper of Emily's story. A story of life interrupted, justice delayed but ultimately revealed, and a community forever changed. And in that lingering tension, that space between revelation and absence, the echo of a cold case persists, haunting, unyielding, unforgettable.